Hey, Daddy.
I'm your daddy.
I am your cool, slutty daddy.
They're definitely not like the best of friends anymore.
Marvel's Fantastic Four reboot has been shelved indefinitely, and it's not because of the script. The real reason, a chilling interview from Bella Ramsey that hinted at something far more disturbing than creative differences. And what she didn't say out loud might change everything for everyone's favorite internet daddy. Bella Ramsey exposes Pedro Pascal's unforgivable behavior behind the scenes. It wasn't just unprofessional, it was unforgivable. That's the quote that's now echoing across social media after Bella Ramsey sat down for what should have been a routine press interview, but what turned into a devastating indictment of Pedro Pascal, her former co-star on The Last of Us. In the opening 5 minutes of that interview, Bella didn't just imply drama. She brought receipts, suggesting that Pascal had behaved in ways so toxic, so fundamentally egotistical, that Disney itself was shocked and acted immediately.
I am your cool, slutty daddy.
Because what began as a behind-the-scenes conflict on a beloved HBO show has now reportedly sabotaged one of the most anticipated projects in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the reboot of Fantastic Four. You heard that right. Bella's sudden call-out, delivered with ice-cold clarity, has not only fractured one of Hollywood's most talked-about on-screen duos, it's now being tied to the collapse of Pedro Pascal's relationship with Disney, who, until just days ago, were still pretending everything was fine. Spoiler alert, it's not. And the most shocking part of this entire story? This is not the Pedro Pascal you've seen doing adorable press tours and TikTok thirst traps. This is not Daddy Pascal. This is a version of Pascal that former crew members say was toxic, dismissive, and intimidating, especially toward younger or less powerful colleagues. But let's start where it all exploded. Bella Ramsey's now viral interview, where she dropped a line that immediately set the internet ablaze.
Bella and Pedro's dynamic didn't shift. I refer to myself in the third person. They're definitely not like the best of friends anymore.
She doesn't elaborate. She doesn't need to. The silence after that sentence says more than any list of specifics ever could. You can feel her calculating the cost of what she's just revealed. The language is soft, but the wound underneath isn't. And when someone that young, that smart, and that media savvy still can't bring herself to fully explain what happened, it tells you the story is darker than anyone wants to believe. And remember, Bella Ramsey is not a gossip-hungry tabloid character. She's 21 years old, a rising star, and someone who's repeatedly handled the press with thoughtful restraint. So when she speaks with this kind of clarity and pain, it means something. It hurts for a reason. Hollywood heard her, and so did Disney. At the time of this interview, Pedro Pascal was still attached to star as Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, in the next phase of Marvel's Fantastic Four. It was being billed as a soft reset for the entire MCU, and Pascal was a centerpiece of that strategy.
I picked Pedro because of his age. I wanted somebody who brought, his gravitas.
And yet, just 48 hours after Bella's comments, a stunning development hit trade outlets. Marvel quietly halts pre-production meetings on Fantastic Four. Publicly, no one would confirm whether the delay was connected to Bella's accusations. But behind closed doors, our sources say the connection was undeniable. A producer at a major Marvel subsidiary, who spoke anonymously, said the studio was in panic mode over how Bella's comments might ignite larger scrutiny of Pascal's past behavior, especially considering that Marvel and Disney are still reeling from multiple past controversies involving abusive or unprofessional talent. To quote them directly, they were terrified this could be another Jonathan Majors situation. And if that quote doesn't tell you how bad things are internally, consider this. Pedro Pascal has not publicly responded. Not once. Not on Twitter. Not in interviews. Not even through a PR spokesperson. And you don't need to be a PR expert to know that silence is damning. This brings us to the wider problem. Pedro Pascal has long positioned himself as a protector, a big brother figure, a feminist, a safe space, and most people bought it because he's charming, he's expressive, he says all the right things, especially in public. But what Bella described doesn't match that image. Because if Bella's telling the truth, and there's no reason to believe she isn't, then Pedro Pascal was the very thing he pretended to stand against. A gatekeeper who used charm and progressive branding to mask his behavior. And that's what makes this story so explosive. Because it's not just about Pedro Pascal, it's about an entire industry that lets powerful men hide behind charm, behind social justice branding, behind allyship, until someone brave enough pulls the mask off. And when Bella Ramsey did exactly that, she wasn't just pulling the mask off a man, she was pulling it off a system. To really understand the weight of what's happened here, we need to rewind the clock just a little. For the last 2 years, Pedro Pascal has been positioned as Hollywood's most beloved cool uncle.
Are you the daddy of the internet? What's internet daddy?
Me.
Yeah, you are!
From memes dubbing him the internet's daddy, to headline after headline praising his warmth, progressiveness, and comic timing, Pascal was seen as both fun and principled, a rare combo in a town full of masks. He leaned into leftist politics, supported trans rights vocally, and even publicly praised Bella.
Bella Ramsey was
incredible with you.
I was like,
in it.
I could tell she was cool. She was casting the part before I was. And I couldn't have asked for a more anchoring, generous, thoughtful teenager. And I don't mean to say that in a patronizing way, but it's just the way it is, you know?
Yeah.
At first glance, that sounds humble, respectful even, but seen in the light of Bella's later revelations, it now reads like a deflection, a man trying to distance himself from emotional responsibility under the guise of respect. Now, we can already hear the defense forming. He's just passionate. He's method. He didn't mean it. But those excuses crumble when confronted with Bella's words. That's not method acting. That's emotional harm. And it's especially chilling when directed at someone half your age, who once liked you well enough to wish you were her real dad.
People are, desperate for me and Pedro to be father and child. It's pretty fun. Like, I think it's a father-kid relationship that is actually quite successful. And I think that people want that to be real. I want it to be real.
Now the million-dollar question remains. Did Bella's interview directly lead to Pedro Pascal's removal or temporary sidelining from Disney's Fantastic Four reboot? Technically, Disney hasn't confirmed anything, but then again, they rarely do until a press release is finalized. What we do know is this. Pedro Pascal was front and center in the casting announcements as recently as March 2025.
There was just so much care and love that was put into this family. Our hope is for that to translate into the movie. Casting really is a gamble. Who knows if we were going to get along.
He was set to play Mr. Fantastic, a literal genius and moral leader of Marvel's first family. And now, the film is on creative hold, according to Deadline. Finally, the cast page on the official Marvel site has since removed Pedro's name entirely. Coincidence? Sure. But after Bella's interview, it's clear the timing is no accident. The deeper question is, what does this mean for Hollywood? Because if even someone as universally adored as Pedro Pascal can get caught hiding behind the mask of performative progressivism, what other names are skating by unexamined? And how many more Bellas are out there, quietly waiting for someone to ask them, what really happened behind the scenes? Disney in Crisis, The Secret, Meetings, Damage Control, and the Fantastic Four Meltdown. By the time Bella Ramsey's now infamous interview reached viral status, the top floors of the Disney Marvel corporate tower weren't just buzzing, they were in full lockdown. Phones stopped ringing, calendars cleared. Executives went into a crisis huddle because what had once been a PR inconvenience was rapidly evolving into a reputational Chernobyl for one of their most highly anticipated film launches, Fantastic Four. Let's be clear, Disney doesn't make decisions like this lightly. Not when they've poured millions into casting Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, built entire marketing campaigns around him, and counted on his crossover appeal to revitalize a franchise that's already bombed twice. But Bella's words? They didn't just bruise Pedro's image, they called Disney's entire vetting process into question. And internally, that's exactly how the situation was framed, a catastrophic oversight in talent management. According to a report from The Hollywood Reporter, just 3 days after Bella's clip gained traction, Disney initiated an urgent personnel assessment of Pascal's current obligations, particularly any overlapping press tours or commitments tied to Marvel properties. Execs are reevaluating upcoming Marvel talent alignments due to recent social controversy. The language might be PR softened, but make no mistake, they were scrambling. Behind the scenes, a call was allegedly placed to Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige, the guy who oversees the entire cinematic empire. And sources close to the studio say Feige was visibly furious, that no one had prepared for a potential blowback from Pascal's behavior on past sets. Let that sink in. Disney leadership was blindsided by a quote from one of their youngest rising stars, because no one had anticipated that Pedro Pascal could ever be at the center of controversy. Why? Because they'd bought into the same illusion the public had, that Pedro was untouchable, that he was Hollywood safe. This is where the real panic began. Internally, Disney's corporate legal team reportedly began scrubbing Pascal's prior set reports, particularly from The Mandalorian and The Last of Us, to see if there was any documentation that could be used against the studio should backlash escalate. According to a leak published by industry whistleblower at Insider Mouse, emails were flagged for urgent review regarding Pascal's on-set conflicts with second unit directors during The Mandalorian Season 3. One email, allegedly dated June 2024, mentioned Pedro objecting to creative decisions in ways that disrupted workflow and staff morale. Again, this wouldn't be nuclear on its own, but when combined with Bella's direct accusation of making her feel small, it paints a pattern, and patterns are liabilities. And this brings us to Disney's #1 concern, perception, because Disney doesn't just trade in stories, it trades in fantasies, and the illusion that their heroes are as wholesome in in real life as they are on screen is central to their brand, which is why within 72 hours of Bella's interview, all promotional materials featuring Pascal were quietly pulled from Marvel's social feeds. The @Marvel Studios official Instagram removed an entire carousel celebrating the Fantastic Four casting, in which Pascal was billed as the visionary genius Reed Richards. That post, archived by Redditors and industry trackers, has vanished. Even more telling, at Disney's summer investor call, which took place the same week, Pascal's name was completely omitted from the Marvel segment, despite being their most high-profile actor attached to Phase 6. Instead, execs focused on the visionary team behind the reboot and emphasized the family dynamic of the cast, without a single face shown. To some in the press, this looked like a strategic move. To those watching closely, it was erasure in real time. And if you're still skeptical, consider this. Pascal's own publicist has gone silent. Normally, in situations like this, you'd expect a carefully worded denial, or at least a deflection. Something like, Pedro and Bella maintain a respectful professional relationship, but instead, crickets. No tweets, no Instagram story reposts, no statements issued. And when Vanity Fair reached out for comment about Bella's interview, Pedro's team refused to respond, an increasingly common PR tactic when lawyers are involved behind the scenes. Pascal's reps declined to comment when asked about recent interview implications. So what's the strategy here? One source at a PR crisis firm in Los Angeles, who spoke under condition of anonymity, described it like this: "What you're seeing is a controlled disappearance. The goal isn't to defend Pedro. It's to let him vanish slowly enough that no one notices the whole. Anonymous crisis. PR advisor via private interview." And what happens to Fantastic Four? Well, that's where things get even more chaotic. Because Disney had staked everything on Pascal's name carrying the film, the story was meant to revolve around Reed Richards as the troubled genius father figure, the linchpin in re-establishing the MCU's emotional tone post-Avengers. Without Pascal, Marvel doesn't just lose a star, it loses the entire emotional arc of its next franchise cycle. And that's why, according to Deadline, Feige and team paused all script workshops and previs meetings for the film. Directors were reportedly told to expect story pivots, and Disney's internal team began mapping contingency plans for casting replacements. Fantastic Four development stalls amid personnel shifts, the leading names being floated: Adam Driver, yes again, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and no joke Penn Badgley, the U-star who's quietly been on Marvel's radar since 2023. All of them come with less controversy and more flexibility. None of them are Twitter thirst icons, and that's exactly what Disney wants now, because behind closed doors, the execs are reportedly done with personalities. They want predictability, reliability, the kind of actors who say the lines, show up on time, and don't become viral TikTok personas who might explode later. And this, ironically, is where Bella Ramsey comes full circle, because what began as a painful moment of honesty from a young star has become a recalibration of how Disney handles stardom. It's no longer just about who can generate hashtags, it's about who can stay clean when the camera turns off. In fact, one producer we spoke to who's worked on Marvel projects before told us bluntly, if Bella hadn't said anything, Fantastic Four would have gone forward with Pedro. We were weeks away from full script lock. She didn't just speak up, she disrupted a billion-dollar pipeline. Confidential Marvel producer, via direct message. And whether she meant to or not, Bella Ramsey has now altered the trajectory of an entire cinematic franchise, not with a performance, but with a sentence. One sentence that cut through the PR fluff. One sentence that told the truth, and one sentence that forced the most powerful studio in the world to rethink everything. And that's what makes this situation not just a scandal, but a watershed moment. Because it's not just about Pedro Pascal. It's about the consequences of packaging charisma as character. It's about the corporations that benefit from performative politics. And most of all, it's about the power of one voice when it refuses to stay quiet. So as Disney restructures their cast lists, rewrites their scripts, and buries Pascal in the PR graveyard, one question remains. Will Bella Ramsey ever get credit for forcing Hollywood to clean house? Because this wasn't a cancellation, it was a reckoning, and the fallout is far from over. The aftermath. Bella rises, Pedro fades, and Hollywood reckons with the power shift. The dust hasn't even settled, and already the cultural landscape around Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey is unrecognizable. What began as a single, emotionally raw comment from Bella has now morphed into one of the most talked about reckonings in Hollywood since the #MeToo movement began, not just because of who she called out, but because of who she is and what she represents in this new era of celebrity. Bella Ramsey, an openly non-binary queer actor not yet in their 20s, has managed to do what entire PR firms and watchdog outlets failed to do for years: pull back the curtain on one of the industry's most beloved figures, and force everyone to ask the uncomfortable question, how much do we really know about our favorite actors? And what are we willing to ignore just because they're charming? This isn't just about Pedro Pascal's alleged behavior. It's about the institutional failure that allowed it to persist. Because even as Bella quietly endured, even as crew members whispered warnings, even as friction mounted on sets from HBO to Disney, Hollywood kept rewarding Pascal with bigger roles, larger contracts, and louder applause. And that reward structure, one that has historically favored older, male, conventionally attractive stars, was shaken to its core when Bella broke the code of silence. But let's talk about the aftermath, because it's more than just a scandal. It's a full-blown reversal of celebrity dynamics. In the wake of the controversy, Bella Ramsey's public image hasn't just survived, it's skyrocketed. According to influencer analytics group CloutTrack, Bella saw a 437% increase in positive sentiment mentions on social media in the 2 weeks following the interview. That's more than any young actor since Jenna Ortega's Wednesday debut. Bella Ramsey's online sentiment surged past 400% after Pedro comments. Their following on Threads doubled in 5 days. Fan art exploded, and more significantly, industry calls started pouring in. An insider at A24 revealed that Bella has been approached for 2 lead roles in upcoming high-concept indie films, with one being described as an awards-bait survival drama that leans into gender fluidity and trauma recovery. Studios are seeing Bella as the new face of post-Gen Z cinema. And get this, HBO reportedly offered to expand Bella's involvement in The Last of Us Season 2, giving them additional creative input and control over Ellie's character arc. This move isn't just a vote of confidence, it's a strategic pivot toward empowering young talent to shape their own narratives. Ramsey gets increased creative influence in upcoming TLOU seasons. It's Poetic, a show about surviving a broken world, now turning its lead into someone who actually survived a Hollywood power imbalance. But here's what's more important than the deals, the scripts, or even the applause. Bella Ramsey didn't just speak out, they were believed. That alone changes everything. Because too often in Hollywood, especially for younger, queer, or gender non-conforming artists, truth doesn't travel far unless it's screamed. But Bella didn't scream, they just told the truth. And that quiet courage, it's resonating loudly. Meanwhile, Pedro Pascal has all but vanished from public view. After refusing to address Bella's comments, his PR strategy quickly shifted from defense to disappearance. According to a PR leak posted by entertainment insider Daniel Richtman, Pedro's team strongly advised the actor to withdraw from all Comic-Con panels and major press events through Q4 2025, particularly anything tied to The Mandalorian, Fantastic Four, or Disney+. Pascal going dark as rep firm pulls out of public events. In fact, it's confirmed. He was pulled from the D23 Expo lineup just 1 week before the event, despite previously being listed as a guest panelist. Official D23 schedule archive. Pascal removed insiders now claim that Disney and Marvel have mutually agreed to pause Pascal's involvement, with Fantastic Four pending further review. Translation, they're waiting to see if the controversy quiets down before making a permanent decision. But they're already looking for a replacement. Meanwhile, social media has turned. The same internet daddy memes that once deified Pascal are now being remixed into critiques, with viral tweets calling out how the feminist mask was used as cover for subtle power abuse. One post, with over 120K likes, read, "Pedro Pascal got away with more because he smiled while doing it. The charm, the alley routine, the memes, it was the ultimate smokescreen." At MediaWitch, 124.1K likes, 30K shares. And here's the kicker. Pedro hasn't denied any of it. No tweets, no video messages, not even a carefully curated podcast appearance to soften the blow. His last Instagram post, a throwback to his time filming The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, has now become a battlefield of dueling comments. Some fans beg him to speak, others condemn him outright. The silence speaks volumes. Even his management firm, CAA, which also reps top-tier talent like Margot Robbie and Tom Hardy, has removed Pascal from the Spotlight Clients section of their website. And that's where the real story lies, in the erasure. Not because Pedro Pascal committed something criminal, as far as we know, but because the illusion broke. And in an industry addicted to image, when illusion dies, so does opportunity. So what does all this mean for Hollywood? In short, the power dynamic is shifting. Where older stars once held all the leverage and studios catered to their egos, the post-Bella era is about caution, compliance, and control. Young actors, especially those from marginalized identities, are no longer seen as liabilities. They're assets with audiences and voices. Studios are reportedly holding sensitivity reviews of past productions involving Pascal, particularly after multiple low-level crew members came forward anonymously in the days following Bella's interview. Streaming platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime are said to be reassessing offers for Pascal's Pascal's next few projects, many of which had been greenlit on his name alone. According to Variety, a dark comedy series Pascal was set to star in, titled The Fall Guy's Therapist, has now been placed on indefinite hold. And if you're still wondering if this is just another news cycle destined to fade, think again. Because Bella Ramsey isn't going away. They're not retreating. They're not being rebranded. They're rising. And that's something Hollywood hasn't seen in a long time. A young actor forcing the machine to pivot, rather than being crushed by it. So where does this leave us? With Pascal's future uncertain and Bella Ramsey being hailed as a truth-teller, the industry has arrived at a long overdue reckoning. Here's what we've learned. Charm is not character. Allyship isn't immunity. And most importantly, young voices are powerful enough to dismantle giants. Bella didn't need a press team, didn't launch a cancel campaign, didn't stage a tear-filled confessional. They just told the truth. And the truth, for once, mattered. So the next time a star seems too good to be true, or a studio insists that everything's fine behind the scenes, remember this. The last time they said that, Bella Ramsey was backstage, quietly collecting the receipts. And Hollywood, it won't forget this lesson again. And with that, we've come to the end of this deep dive. For more juicy content like this, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and check out the cards showing on your screen for more videos. Don't forget to comment your thoughts below.
Yeah.
It's almost terrifying to think about these being done.
Chris Evans has just opened up about something going on at Disney, and honestly, it's got people worried. For a while now, there have been whispers about drama unfolding behind the scenes, things never meant for the public eye. But hearing it from one of the studio's biggest stars, that hits different. So what exactly is going on? Chris Evans drops a bombshell about Disney. The world of Disney has been no stranger to controversies, particularly when it comes to the 2022 Pixar film Lightyear. At the center of this storm stands Chris Evans, who voiced the titular character in what was meant to be the origin story of the beloved Space Ranger. The film was positioned as the movie that inspired the toy in the Toy Story universe, an interesting meta concept that added layers to the Pixar mythology. However, when Lightyear hit theaters in June 2022, it sparked immediate and intense backlash, primarily due to the inclusion of a brief same-sex kiss between two female characters. This scene, lasting only about 10 seconds and appearing in a montage sequence depicting the life of Hawthorne, voiced by Uzo Aduba, and her wife, caused the film to be banned in 14 countries, including the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and other nations in the Middle East and Asia, where homosexuality is often criminalized or heavily restricted under local media content standards and cultural norms. The international censorship of Lightyear highlighted the ongoing challenges of global film distribution, particularly for content that pushes boundaries on social issues or includes LGBTQ+ representation. Producer Galen Sussman told AFP that the team was warned of potential bans but chose not to alter the film, stating, "We weren't going to change the film we wanted to make just because of some countries with, for lack of a better term, backward beliefs." This stance reflected a growing willingness among some filmmakers and studios to prioritize inclusive storytelling over maximizing global box office potential, a complex business decision with significant cultural implications. Evans made headlines when he boldly addressed this controversy head-on. In an interview with Reuters that quickly went viral, he didn't mince words about those criticizing the film's LGBTQ+ representation, stating, "The real truth is those people are idiots." The actor's unfiltered response was remarkable for its directness, especially coming from the star of a Disney-Pixar family film. Most actors promoting such projects tend to respond to controversies with carefully worded diplomatic statements, but Evans chose a more confrontational approach that aligned with his personal values, while potentially risking alienating certain audience segments. The actor went on to elaborate on his position regarding social progress, framing the issue as part of a broader historical pattern of societal advancement.
I think throughout history you can see every time there's been social advancement as we wake up. The American story, the human story, is one of constant social awakening and growth, and that's what makes us good.
This framing situated the Lightyear controversy within a larger narrative of American and human progress, suggesting that resistance to diverse representation is not only wrong-headed, but part of a historical pattern that ultimately gives way to greater inclusivity. Evans's choice to contextualize the film's representation in these sweeping historical terms elevated the discussion beyond a single scene in an animated movie, connecting it to fundamental questions about social evolution and progress. What's particularly interesting about Evans's stance is how firmly he planted his flag in support of inclusion, even as Disney was navigating its own internal controversies regarding LGBTQ+ content. Before the film's release, the same-sex kiss scene was initially cut from Lightyear, but was later restored following protests from Pixar staff. This internal conflict at Disney Pixar was part of a broader protest against Disney's response to Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, officially the Parental Rights in Education bill, which restricts discussions of sexual orientation and gender identity in primary school classrooms. In March 2022, LGBTQ employees and allies at Pixar sent a joint statement to Disney leadership, claiming that Disney executives had censored overtly gay affection in films, highlighting years of thwarted efforts to include LGBTQ+ identity in their projects. The statement detailed specific examples, including the removal of a rainbow sticker from Soul 2020 and same-sex couples from various backgrounds in films, illustrating the tension between creative desires for representation and corporate concerns about market reception. Evans continued his criticism of those opposing the film's representation, predicting their eventual irrelevance in increasingly stark terms.
And when that happens, there's always going to be people who are afraid and unaware and trying to hold on to what was before. But those people die off like dinosaurs. And so, I think the goal is to pay them no mind, march forward, and embrace the growth that makes us human.
The dinosaurs metaphor was particularly pointed, comparing critics of inclusive representation to extinct creatures unable to adapt to a changing world. This vivid language underscored Evans's conviction that opposition to diversity and representation represents not just a difference of opinion, but a fundamentally outdated worldview destined for extinction. Such rhetoric, while galvanizing for those who share his perspective, undoubtedly intensified the polarized reaction to both the film and Evans' comments. The actor's co-star in the interview echoed these sentiments with their own powerful statement, urging critics to re-examine their perspectives through the lens of the film's famous catchphrase.
I would say to those people, just like with Buzz, refurbish your idea of tradition. Understand that it's to infinity and beyond. It's time to move forward. It's time to accept and look and enjoy all the faces that have always been there. You know what I mean? They always been a part of the picture. You just try to paint them out. So that's also what this is about. It's about this is what it looks like. This is what it's always been, and to infinity and beyond.
This creative incorporation of Buzz Lightyear's signature phrase, "to infinity and beyond," transformed it from a space exploration metaphor into a call for social progress, cleverly linking the film's theme of pushing boundaries with the real-world push for greater inclusivity and representation. The controversy surrounding Lightyear didn't end with its representation issues. There was also significant discussion about the casting of Chris Evans instead of Tim Allen, who had voiced Buzz Lightyear in all 4 Toy Story films. This decision led to fan disappointment and speculation about whether Allen had been passed over for political reasons, given his conservative views and public support for Donald Trump. Some fans and media outlets theorized that Allen's absence was due to his political stance, noting incidents like a 2013 controversy involving racial slurs, adding another layer of political tension to the film's reception. Evans addressed this casting controversy directly, explaining in interviews that Lightyear depicted the human character who inspired the toy, not the toy itself, which justified the different voice casting. In an interview with Jimmy Kimmel, he further clarified the premise of the film, describing his initial confusion and the explanation he received from director Angus MacLane.
So, listen, I'm a massive Pixar fan, and when my team first called me to tell me that this was a possibility, when you get a call...
Which team, the Celtics, you mean?
Sorry, God, that was like the most Hollywood thing. When my team called, my agents. And when everybody's on the call, it's either good news or really bad.
Oh, right.
Evans went on to explain the concept behind the film, revealing how the director's childhood fascination with Star Wars informed the creative vision for Lightyear.
And I went up and I met with them, and Angus, the director, had a PowerPoint presentation, and it began by him saying, so when I was a kid, I loved Star Wars, and click, the first slide was, 5-year-old Angus covered in Han Solo gear, and he said it was just his whole world. He had all the toys, and his friends loved it. And he said that when he first saw the first Toy Story, and when Andy got Buzz Lightyear and all his friends knew who Buzz was, he wondered what was the movie in their world that they saw that made Buzz such an iconic...
This explanation positioned Lightyear as a meta-narrative within the Pixar universe, the fictional movie that existed within the world of Toy Story that inspired the Buzz Lightyear toy line. This creative concept sought to justify both the visual differences between the animated human Buzz and the toy Buzz, as well as the voice casting change from Allen to Evans. Tim Allen himself weighed in on the controversy in an interview with Extra, commenting on the lack of connection between Lightyear and his portrayal of the character. "It's a wonderful story, it just doesn't seem to have any connection to the toy. It's a little, I don't know, it just has no relationship to Buzz. It's just no connection. I wish there was a better connection." Allen's remarks, while not directly critical, suggested a disappointment with how the character had been reimagined, adding fuel to the existing controversy about his absence from the project. Despite the explanations offered by Evans and the creative team, the casting controversy added another layer of political tension to the film's reception. Some conservative commentators and fans saw Allen's absence as part of a pattern of Hollywood sidelining performers with right-leaning views, while others accepted the creative explanation at face value. This division reflected the increasingly polarized nature of media reception in contemporary American culture, where casting decisions and creative choices are often interpreted through political lenses. Despite the controversies, or perhaps partly because of them, Lightyear underperformed significantly at the box office. Reports indicate that the film lost Disney a substantial $106 million, with a production cost of $373 million, including marketing and distribution, and global box office earnings of only $26.4 million. This financial disappointment led to further criticism and analysis, with some attributing the failure to the film's perceived woke agenda, and others pointing to factors like the confusing premise, the absence of Tim Allen, or simply the quality of the film itself. Conservative backlash against the film was significant and vocal. Representative Jim Jordan expressed his views on Twitter with the succinct critique, "Buzz Lightyear went woke, the movie went broke," encapsulating the go woke, go broke sentiment that has become a common refrain among critics of progressive content in entertainment. Right-wing podcast host Ben Shapiro elaborated on this position on social media, claiming that Disney has a not at all secret gay agenda and encouraging parents to consider this before taking their children to see Lightyear. He included a screenshot of the lesbian couple from the film to emphasize his point, drawing attention specifically to the representation that Evans had defended as a natural part of human progress. The backlash extended beyond social media commentary to concrete actions. A school in Ontario, Canada, canceled a planned field trip to see the film, and a theater in Oklahoma announced its intention to fast forward through the kiss scene during screenings. These responses demonstrated how the brief scene had become a flashpoint for broader cultural tensions about representation in children's media and parental control over the content their children consume. The controversy around Lightyear continues to be a point of discussion even in 2025, with recent social media posts still referencing it alongside other Disney projects as examples of woke flops. In April 2025, user at BigPoppage68 commented on X, "But at Disney is bleeding money from woke flops like Buzz Lightyear and the Snow White remake. We should quit pretending it's not a problem." This suggests that the film's legacy and the discussions it sparked about representation in media continue to resonate in cultural conversations years after its release, becoming part of a larger narrative about Disney's creative direction and its commercial consequences. Not all reactions to the controversy were negative, however. Some commentators mockingly criticized the intensity of the backlash, drawing parallels to other cultural flashpoints. In April 2025, user at Sammy Wrestlin noted on X, "They literally couldn't sleep at night because a mermaid was black. They stormed a capitol. They never admitted defeat. They also almost killed everyone in their way when there was two women kissing in the Lightyear movie. Their snowflakery knows no bounds." This satirical take characterized the backlash as disproportionate and politically motivated, connecting it to other instances of conservative outrage over diverse casting and representation. At this point, it's clear that Evans's stance placed him squarely on one side of a cultural debate that extends far beyond a single animated film. His willingness to call critics idiots and predict their extinction like dinosaurs demonstrated a level of conviction that set him apart from the more measured corporate responses typical of Disney-affiliated talent. Whether this bold stance has affected his relationship with the entertainment giant remains to be seen, but it certainly cemented his reputation as an advocate for progressive values in an increasingly polarized media landscape. Disney scandals rock the entertainment world. While Chris Evans' comments about Lightyear critics generated significant buzz, they represent just one facet of Disney's recent controversies. The entertainment giant has been navigating a sea of scandals that extend far beyond the casting and content choices of a single Pixar film. One of the most alarming recent incidents occurred in early 2025, when former Disney employee Michael Schur was sentenced to 3 years in prison for hacking into the park's menu system after being fired in 2024. This wasn't just digital vandalism, it was a potentially dangerous breach with real-world safety implications. Between July and September 2024, Schur repeatedly hacked into Disney's menu creation software, making various malicious alterations including changing allergen information, falsely indicating that some items containing peanuts were peanut-free. This could have had life-threatening consequences for visitors with severe allergies had Disney not caught and removed the altered menus before they reached park restaurants. The extent of Schur's digital sabotage was comprehensive. In addition to the allergen misinformation, he changed menu prices, added profane language, disabled employee accounts, and altered QR codes to link to a website advocating a boycott of Israel-related businesses. The incident disrupted operations for 2 weeks, requiring manual processes and backups, and cost Disney at least $150,000 in immediate damages. Schur initially denied wrongdoing, claiming Disney was framing him and citing a mental health disability, but he eventually pleaded guilty to computer fraud and aggravated identity theft. In April 2025, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution of approximately $690,000. This incident highlights significant cybersecurity vulnerabilities at one of the world's most visited theme park destinations, raising questions about Disney's digital infrastructure and employee management practices. The case also illustrates the growing intersection of cybersecurity and physical safety in our increasingly digital world. Another ongoing controversy plaguing Disney parks involves the exploitation of the Disability Access Service, DAS, designed to assist guests with disabilities who cannot wait in traditional lines. Reports from May 2025 indicate that some guests are hiring disabled individuals to accompany them and use DAS passes to skip lines, a practice costing approximately $100 for priority access. The practice involves able-bodied guests effectively renting the services of someone with a disability solely to gain preferential treatment in attraction queues. This exploitation not only undermines the purpose of the DAS system, but also commodifies disability in a troubling way. This is not the first time Disney has grappled with such abuse. Similar practices were documented in the early 2010s, leading Disney to replace the guest assistance card with the more structured DAS in 2013. In response to continued exploitation, Disney updated the DAS program again in 2024, narrowing eligibility to focus primarily on developmental disabilities like autism, requiring virtual interviews up to 30 days in advance, and limiting group sizes. However, these policy changes have themselves become controversial. A class action lawsuit filed in February 2025 alleges that the new policies discriminate against guests with physical disabilities, violating their rights under the Americans with Disabilities Act and California's Unruh Civil Rights Act. The lawsuit seeks changes to eligibility criteria and damages of at least $4,000 per violation, arguing that the current implementation forces public disclosure of medical information, constituting a privacy breach. Public reaction to the exploitation of the DAS system has been strongly negative. On forums like mumsnet.com, commenters called the hiring practice deceitful and profoundly depressing, with one person noting, "As someone with a disability who now has to jump through ridiculous hoops in Florida, people like your husband are the reason getting the pass I've legitimately used for years is now near impossible." Disney has defended its policies, stating that the claims in the lawsuit are without merit. The company adjusted the wording of its DAS eligibility descriptions in January 2025, removing the word "only" from certain criteria, possibly in response to legal pressures. Beyond operational issues at the parks, Disney has also faced broader controversies related to cultural and political debates. The company's response to Florida's Don't Say Gay bill in 2022 exemplifies this challenge. Disney's initial silence on the legislation led to staff walkouts and public criticism. LGBTQ employees and allies at Pixar alleged that Disney executives had actively censored overtly gay affection in their films. When Disney eventually opposed the bill after significant pressure, promising advancing $5 million to LGBTQ+ charities and halting political donations in Florida, it faced backlash from conservative stakeholders and politicians. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis responded by targeting Disney's special self-governing status in the Reedy Creek Improvement District, escalating what had been a cultural disagreement into a legal and legislative battle. The controversies surrounding Lightyear are part of a longer history at Pixar and Disney regarding LGBTQ+ representation. Over Pixar's 27-year history, few films have included unambiguous LGBTQ+ characters, with examples like a one-eyed cop mentioning a girlfriend in Onward 2020, and two moms hugging a child in Toy Story 4 Inches 2019. This pattern suggests an ongoing tension between creative desires for inclusive storytelling and business concerns about market reception. The conservative backlash against Disney's perceived woke agenda extends beyond Lightyear. Recent social media comments continue to frame Disney's creative choices in political terms. For instance, the casting decisions for the live-action Snow White remake sparked heated debates in March 2025, illustrating how Disney properties have become battlegrounds in broader cultural wars about representation. In March 2025, another incident added to Disney's challenges when a fire broke out in a walk-in cooler backstage at Epcot's France Pavilion, leading to the evacuation of Remy's Ratatouille adventure. Just days later, a Florida man was arrested for attempting to bring cocaine into Magic Kingdom, generating headlines that associated Disney World with illegal drug activity. As Disney navigates these multifaceted scandals, it faces the challenge of maintaining its identity as a family-friendly entertainment provider while addressing the increasingly diverse and sometimes conflicting expectations of its global audience. The controversies reveal a company at the intersection of changing social norms, technological vulnerabilities, and polarized political environments. Future plans leave fans wondering what next. As controversies continue to swirl around Disney, fans and industry insiders alike are curious about Chris Evans' future with the entertainment giant. Having portrayed both Captain America in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Buzz Lightyear in Pixar's Lightyear, Evans has been a significant presence in two major Disney franchises. However, his path forward with the company appears less certain than his past success might suggest. Speculation about Evans returning to the MCU as Captain America has been persistent since his character's emotional send-off in Avengers Endgame 2019. However, recent statements from the actor have consistently denied these rumors. In a January 2025 interview with People magazine, Evans firmly shut down reports of his return for Avengers Doomsday, stating simply, "That's not true," and noting that similar rumors resurface every few years since Endgame. This sentiment was echoed in an Esquire interview where he quipped, "Yeah, no, happily retired," when asked about reprising his role. Anthony Mackie, who has taken up the mantle of Captain America, confirmed in the same piece that Evans had not discussed returning, adding, "I talked to Chris a few weeks ago and it wasn't on the table then." These recent denials stand in contrast to earlier rumors from outlets like Collider in January 2021, which had suggested negotiations for at least one Marvel project, but these have not materialized into confirmed roles. The persistence of these rumors, despite clear denials, highlights the challenge actors face in controlling the narrative around their careers, particularly when attached to beloved franchise characters. Understanding Evans's original journey to becoming Captain America provides interesting context for his current stance. When asked how he got cast in the iconic role, Evans described it as a process filled with uncertainty.
Luck. They wanted me to come in and read, and I was a little apprehensive. It was a back and forth. It was a little bit of a dance. It was something I was really nervous about doing.
He credits the support of Marvel executives and colleagues for helping him take the leap.
Luckily, there were really good people in my corner who kept nudging me. Kevin Feige and Robert and a lot of great people kind of talked me into it, and it's the best decision of my life.
This initial hesitation, followed by the career-defining success of his tenure as Captain America, may inform his current reluctance to return to the role. Having completed a satisfying character arc and moved on to other projects, Evans may be wary of diminishing the impact of Steve Rogers' farewell by returning for additional appearances. While the MCU door appears closed for now, another potential avenue for Evans' future with Disney lies in the Star Wars franchise. An ex-post from September 2019 shows Evans' interest in joining the galaxy far, far away, as he simply responded "me" to a query about MCU actors in Star Wars. Reports from Giant Freakin' Robot in June 2024, citing insider Daniel Richtman, indicated Disney had informal talks with Evans for an upcoming Star Wars project, likely a theatrical film under Kevin Feige's development. This potential Star Wars connection makes sense given Evans's previous collaboration with Rian Johnson, director of Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, on the hit film Knives Out. Earlier reports, like one from Mickey in November 2020, also mentioned talks between Evans and Disney regarding Star Wars, but the lack of updates leaves this possibility in the realm of speculation. In terms of animation work with Disney, Evans' experience with Pixar for Lightyear was both a creative opportunity and a commercial challenge. The film's underperformance at the box office, losing Disney $106 million according to reports, may affect the likelihood of sequels or new Pixar projects involving the actor. While critics praised his performance, there are no indications of sequels or new Pixar projects involving him. When discussing his approach to voicing Buzz Lightyear, Evans revealed his respect for Tim Allen's original performance.
Well, it's nice to have what Tim did, because not only did he do it so well, and we all love him for what his performance was, but the character actually is. I mean, this is the human version of the toys.
He further explained his process.
This is an iconic role, but informed very much in part by what Tim did. Whatever this character is would have to be why Tim is the way he was. So you just kind of take his performance as a blueprint and just move upstream.
Evans also shared insights into the unique challenges of voice acting for animation.
Everyone always says, like, well, what was it like working with the other actors? You don't work with the other actors. You're in a booth by yourself. I didn't even meet half the actors until last night at the premiere. So it's a very isolating thing, and you really end up focusing extremely on the one string you're playing on, which is your voice.
Beyond Disney-specific projects, Evans' current career trajectory includes several non-Disney films. According to The Cinemaholic, as of March 30th, 2025, his upcoming projects include Honey Don't for Apple TV Plus and Red One for Prime Video, suggesting a focus on expanding his presence across different studios and streaming platforms. Evans' contractual status with Disney provides another piece of the puzzle regarding his future with the company. His past MCU contract, detailed in Cinema Blend from 2018, was for 6 films, extended for Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame, but expired post-2019. Reports from 2021, like one from We Got This Covered, suggested a new contract for more projects, but these have not led to confirmed roles. Despite the uncertainties surrounding his professional relationship with Disney, Evans maintains a personal connection to the company and its properties. His visit to Disney World in January 2025, reported by Aliers.net, shows his continued affinity for the Disney experience as a fan, even as his future as a Disney actor remains unclear. When discussing his own inspirations and the figures who encouraged his career path, Evans credited his parents and local theater directors.
I mean, I'm very lucky. My parents were always really, really supportive. I had a couple good local theater directors. When I was a kid, you do community theater and kids theater and things like that.
As of May 4th, 2025, Chris Evans' future with Disney remains largely speculative. While he has denied returning as Captain America, the possibility exists given past rumors, but current evidence leans toward no return. Star Wars offers a potential new chapter, with talks reported but no confirmation. Other Disney projects, like Pixar sequels, are not in development for him. His career trajectory, as seen in upcoming non-Disney projects, suggests a focus outside Disney, but his expressed interest in Disney's expansive franchises keep the door open for future collaborations. For fans of Evans' work with Disney, whether as Captain America or Buzz Lightyear, the coming months and years will likely bring clarity regarding his next steps with the entertainment giant. Until then, the actor's firm statements about being happily retired from the MCU and his diversification into non-Disney projects suggest a career in transition, one that may or may not include future collaborations with the house that Mickey built. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.